look at that. Suddenly he's back. He's back from, I guess he moved back into Bakersfield. Is that what happened? No, he's been gone for 1 week. This is Scott and Marshall here. Of course, I'm Scott, the capitalist conservative pastor, and this is Marshall, the socialist liberal atheist, who moved to the left coast. And then he was there for a week and came back.
The left coast.
Yeah, came back after living there for 1 week, complaining about the heat in Bakersfield. You've lived here your entire life, and you're gone for 1 week, and you came back complaining about the heat.
What a nut job, right?
Right?
You know? Yep.
What's up with that? How was your first week living not in Bakersfield?
Oh, it was terrible. The weather never reached 70 degrees.
You're awful.
Yeah, so it's pretty nice, and I'm going back tonight, and tomorrow I'll be broadcasting from my home.
Okay, cool.
But oh man, I'm already like sneezing because of the weather here. I guess the air.
Oh my gosh, the air quality, air pollution. You gotten soft. You've gone weak. You've gone for one stinking week, and you think that you're just a West Coaster now. You think
right?
But that I'm gonna throw my wife under the bus right now. She went to college in Santa Barbara, so she lived all over the place. But she lived there, from like seventh grade until all of high school in Bakersfield, and then she moved to Santa Barbara for college. And she's like, well, from then on, she started telling people she's from Santa Barbara because
there you go.
Why would you not say you're from Santa Barbara?
Well, there you are.
Exactly. So. Yeah, so that's what we are. Hey, we got Josh Gunderson is watching. Josh, we're going to be in your neck of the woods next weekend. Maybe we can get together and talk with you, or maybe
I hope we get you on camera.
Maybe broadcast a show. Not to. We'll see. I'm going to be in your neck of the woods over by Pismo Beach on vacation next weekend. So. Those of you who want to break into my house, I guess I just told you when I'm not going to be there, but. This day and age,
I've been to your house. You don't have anything to take.
No, it's one of those places that's such a mess that if we came home and somebody broke in, we'd be like, we wouldn't notice for like a week.
Like something, it looks cleaner.
It looks clean. Yeah, what happened?
What happened?
I guess somebody broke in and cleaned up the place.
Well, all right. And I want to say hi to Jeffrey and Jackie are also watching. So I want to say hi to all of you who are tuning in.
Yes.
Apparently, we've got about 5 people on here. But if
Nice.
you're not my friend, I don't see your name pop up necessarily.
And why wouldn't you be Marshall's friend?
Right. Yes, you guys can all send me friend requests. I'll probably accept them if you can put up with me. I'm also on Twitter now.
Why?
I've got a Twitter account. And
See, I was on Twitter a few years ago, and then I'm like, I give up.
Well, I
much.
started it for a different project I was going to do with some friends, and then that kind of just fizzled out. It didn't quite
How do we
develop.
find you on Twitter?
At Professor Damus, like Nostradamus, but Professor Damus, Damus.
You just think you're so clever.
Well, because that was part of the whole shtick that we were going to do, and I'm like, well, I've got this Twitter. I might as well just go ahead and
I'm
use
on
it.
Twitter, actually. I've not posted anything in years or done anything, but I am somewhat active on Instagram at Pastor Macman.
Well, there you go.
At Pastor Macman on Instagram. Yeah,
he loves some
MacMan. But I only post on Instagram the things that I'm doing video related. So when I'm shooting videos and doing stuff like that, I have it more as a professional page. If people want to follow how to make videos, I do some how-tos and here's what we're doing and what we're shooting and stuff like that. And so if you're interested in any of the video making or movie making or film or anything like that, you can follow my Instagram at Pastor Macman. And my sons are on Instagram with all their films and all that kind of stuff. But all the great social media. It's just at one point, like I got invitations from people on LinkedIn, and there was like Google Hangouts. I'm like, I am not going to try to track all of this stuff. It's just I want my
not a rerun, Carrie. We're live.
We are live. Yeah, Carrie. So we are here live right now.
We didn't want to disappoint you again.
Although
so
at some point
I made it in.
There may be something in the future that we replay this one and we'll say, yes, we're live. And people will
then we won't be live.
And then we won't be. But today we actually are. In fact, just so you know, today is July 14th. Okay, so there's the proof. I should have said a different date. I should have totally said a different date.
Played it again and
it's July 14th, 2021. No, just kidding. It's 2019.
All right.
But, We're talking today. You can see if you look on our title here, talking about independence and freedom. And we had talked a little bit. There's this clip that's gone viral, and it's been there.
It's
on the
been
internet.
viral for like a decade.
Yeah, it's been out there for a while.
while.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's been a decade, but the new
thereabouts.
Yeah,
from Newsroom or
the
whatever.
the TV show, whatever it was on HBO,
Newsroom
Showtime,
or
whatever it was.
whatever, yeah.
It's called The Newsroom. It had what's the actor's name?
I don't remember his name.
He's
off
on
the top
Dumb
of
and
my-
Dumber.
It's like
and he's
Jeff Bridges, maybe.
Yeah, no,
or
Jeff.
something,
No, I can't remember. Oh, why can't I think of his name? Somebody tell us what his name is.
He's
but
the Hollywood guy.
I know, right? Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels.
That's right.
Yeah, it's Jeff Daniels. I've never actually seen the episode. I've never seen any of the show, but I have seen that clip. And basically, he's like a guest. I guess he works at a newsroom, and he's a guest speaker or a guest at like a college auditorium where people are asking questions, and they ask, what makes America great? And one of the students said, well, it's our freedoms. And he makes a comment about how, that's not that everybody has freedom. That he starts listing off all these countries about what, all of them have freedom and stuff like that. And everybody has freedom, and America, we don't really have freedom anymore. And without, free. But the idea, you would ask me about that. You would ask me what I think of that. I said, well, I think it's a straw man argument. I believe it's setting up a fake, if you don't know what a straw man argument is, I believe it's setting up a fake opponent that can easily be taken down by saying, well, people believe that America was great because of freedom, but really everybody has freedom. So believing that America is great because of that, it's a way of saying America isn't great. And I disagree, obviously, as a right-wing conservative. I do believe America is great, and I believe it's great not because it was founded on the principle of freedom. It was actually founded on the principle of independence. And I believe that there is a very big difference between freedom and independence. But too many people easily conflate the two. Too many people just use them interchangeably.
Different.
Yeah, use them interchangeably, even though they are substantially different. And again, it was not the Declaration of Freedom; it was the Declaration of Independence. And I think that there's a big difference between those. And we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about that, because I believe. You believe that it should be about freedom, and I believe it should be about independence. And it seems, again, well, aren't you guys basically agreeing?
No, definitely not.
No. Yeah, we're definitely not agreeing. And
well, the first thing we need to do is we need to define these terms so people know what the heck we're arguing over.
Yeah.
So independence. Tell me about independence.
Well, the difference between freedom, in my opinion, I mean, we can pull out the dictionary. That's what I usually do, but I didn't actually have the dictionary. If you want to pull it up or look at it,
I want to know what your definition is.
Basically,
I'm
how I
tired
see
of
it.
leaving these discussions up to Merriam-Webster.
Yeah, who's been dead for how long? It's
right.
Not up to the
I
people
want your ideas.
The idea of freedom is the idea that you don't have to have. There's a certain level of responsibility that you are free from. That there's an idea of freedom, meaning that you don't have to be responsible about certain things. That without the weight of that responsibility, you now can be free to do whatever you want. And the idea of independence says you are still responsible, but you are free to make your own. You are free to be responsible in your own way. You choose what you're going to be responsible for, but independence does not shake off the bonds of responsibility. You still have to be responsible for what you do and responsible for yourself. Whereas the idea of freedom is more about, let's remove the responsibility from you so that you can just be free. You should not have to pay for your own health care. You should be free and let somebody else take care of that for you, so you don't have to worry about it and you don't have to be responsible for it. You shouldn't have to be responsible for your own car and transportation. You should have the freedom to take public transportation wherever it goes, and we'll provide that for you for free. It's the idea
of a great idea from the conservative.
Right, exactly. It's about giving up your independence. It's about relying on someone else and being dependent on someone else for your freedom. When that happens, when you are not independent, by definition, you are dependent. That means you are dependent on someone else for that freedom. And I don't want to be granted the freedom someone else chooses for me. I want the independence to choose what I will be responsible for.
So you don't like the status quo at all, then?
No. I don't like where it's going. I don't like the idea of
you're not going to like any society.
What's that?
because all society is based on interdependence. That's
Right,
what
and
it
that's-
means
and that's
to belong
fine.
to a society.
Right, but to be as independent as possible and still operate within society is what is
You
what
want
you
the
want.
benefits of
Absolutely.
society, but you don't want.
I want to be able to choose to participate in the benefits that I choose, not be forced the benefits that someone else chooses for me. I want to be able to say, hey, I don't want to pay for that, and I understand by not paying for that, I will not receive the benefits, but that'll be my choice. I want the independence to be able to make that choice so that I can then spend, instead of spending there, spend on something that I feel is important, that you may not feel is important, but I want the independence to be able to do this because I feel this is important for my life and the life of my family. That I should have the independence to be able to make that choice. And that's the difference. America was not based on freedom. It was based on independence. That the founders of the United States, it was the Declaration of Independence that these ought to be free and was independent and free states. That it was not the Declaration.
States, not necessarily the people.
Well, no, that was what the Bill of Rights is about. The Bill of Rights is about the independence of people.
Which only applied to Caucasian men.
But in a system that allowed it to be changed.
Which was the one good thing about all
exactly. Which was the main good thing, not the one good thing.
But
the
yet
main
we're still
good
lagging
thing.
in a lot of categories.
Because of that main good thing, all the other good things became applicable because of that main good thing. So it wasn't the one good thing. It was a lot of good things. That was the main one that it could be changed. And the idea that it could be, but again, it's about what the government cannot do to you.
Right.
What the government does, what the government does not have the right to affect in your life. That's independence. Because independence is about negative rights. What the government cannot do. As soon as you go positive rights and say, this is what the government must provide for you, now we're going into, this is the freedom that the government will choose to grant you. But that's a positive right.
Isn't that true in every society, though? Every society is essentially everybody kind of getting together and forming more or less a consensus. And there's always people who are going to object no matter what you guys agree on. But there's more or less a consensus on what rights people should have. For example, the right to own and bear arms, right?
No, hold on, but don't conflate it. It's not the right that you get to have arms. It's you have the right for those not to be taken from you. Shall not be infringed.
But
the language is important. It's not the government saying we're going to approve that you have guns. It's the Constitution saying the government cannot violate that natural right. But independent right cannot be violated.
But yet, what we have seen for quite a long time is one restriction upon another restriction upon another restriction upon that right. And the Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld those restrictions, or at least the state Supreme Courts have. But basically,
there are restrictions that it has not.
Seeing, for example, you're limited in the capacity of your magazine and the type of firearm you can have, and all of that. You know,
not according to what the founders originally wrote it as.
But this is how a society works.
Right. But again, as a conservative, I want it to go back to the intent of the founders.
Would you be happy then on a deserted island?
What's that? By myself? Probably not.
Because you would have maximum independence on a deserted island. You could do and have whatever you wanted. There would be nobody to tell you no. There would be no restrictions on you. You would have absolute freedom on a deserted island. So why not go?
Josh, I want to come back
to
that. I want to come back to that. Go ahead and finish the island, but I want to come back to that. Say the first part of the amendment. Yeah, most people don't understand that, and I absolutely will bring that up and show.
Well, I don't want to get into a Second Amendment debate necessarily.
Okay,
I was just choosing that.
But I have not. I just want to address.
Maybe this is next Sunday's topic, Josh.
Maybe, but I want to address, Josh, that no, I don't overlook it. That the very beginning of that defines the type of guns that we should be allowed to have. So,
okay. But basically, my contention is if you really want independence, you could theoretically, and I'm not going to be the kind of guy who says, go live on a deserted island.
Right, exactly.
I hate that argument. You don't like it, go leave. No. But theoretically, speaking hypothetically, why not go live on a deserted island by yourself?
Because I choose to be able to purchase what I want. And so I don't mind living in a society where people offer things for purchase. People offer things like someone is willing to pay me money for my time to do this. And I get to choose, do I want to do that? Do I want to do that? Or do I want to do that? That seems like something I want to do. And that's the amount of money I want to make. So I have the freedom, I have the independence to say, I'm going to choose that job for that amount of money so I can now get this money. Oh, this person sells this. I want to go buy that. I'm going to give that person money and they'll give me that product. That's independence. I am still choosing to do that. I am choosing how I participate in the community instead of the community telling me how I must participate.
But you want to exempt yourself from things like taxation?
No. I want to exempt myself from saying, hey, okay, you know what? I'm thirsty. I want to buy that 32-ounce soda. And the community saying, I'm sorry, that's too much sugar for you. You're not allowed to buy that. Well, I want to defend myself against, I want to be able to defend myself against multiple attackers. And it takes 2 to 3 rounds statistically to stop an attacker. I want to be able to protect myself against a gang of 4 people. I need 12 rounds. Sorry, you can only carry 10. Oh, sorry, you can only carry 6. I want the independence to choose to buy what I want, to choose to do what I want with my life. That is not affecting. If I go out and shoot someone illegally, then you charge me for murder. You punish me for my crime. Don't prevent me. Don't say, I'm sorry, we don't believe that you're qualified enough to do that. We believe that you should not be able to do that. So we're going to think for you. We're going to choose that's too much sugar for you. So no, you cannot buy that size of a soda. Oh no. Oh, you that is what I don't want. I don't want a governing body saying you get to have this much freedom, but not this much. That's not independence. I want to be able. Yes, there's going to be a responsibility for that. And if I choose to drink too much sugary drinks, I'm going to have diabetes. So I'm going to choose to not get those sugary drinks, but it should be my choice. That's what I want. I want to live in a society where I have the choice to spend my money, how and where I want.
Your money.
To how and where I am, to live my life without you telling me, saying, sorry, you can't buy that car because the engine's too big. Sorry, you can't live in that house because that's the wrong, whatever, you can't have a house that size, or you can only do it this way. I want to maintain as much independence as possible.
But society is saying this is no longer possible for this reason, this reason, this reason. For example,
right, but
too big an engine
but they're
means
unreasonable.
more pollution, which means
no,
other
not
human
anymore.
beings
Not
can't breathe.
anymore. Not anymore. They're making cleaner and cleaner engines, so that doesn't matter. I want to be able to have the choice.
If society says no, we as a society believe this should be restricted for whatever reason, whether it's cleaner air.
No, not for whatever reason. Not for whatever reason.
Well,
that's the problem.
That's
the problem. It should not be for whatever reason. It should only be for the reasons that this directly affects someone else. That this action, your action, saying I can only carry 10 bullets, me having 15 bullets in my gun, there is no direct action of carrying 15 bullets that is harming anybody else. It only happens if I pull the trigger. So then punish me for what I do wrong. Don't say, well, no. Putting the restriction on there is a way of artificially tying someone else's hands. And I want the independence to choose what's best for me.
Okay. Now, here's where I want to chime in here and talk about freedom. To me, freedom is the ability to choose.
And before you get started, I want to address Chris. Yeah, again, you missed the beginning of it. He's in town just temporarily. But yeah, Chris is like, are you guys back together again? Is it really good, seamless video editing? Watch this. Look, ready? That's really good video editing, right?
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to address Chris's comment. We're actually here together because he happened to come into town, and this might happen next week if all goes well, because I'm going to be over at his place.
There you go.
Excuse me.
Okay. So to me, freedom is the ability to choose to do something, or the option to do it. For example, the ability to choose whether or not you go to college or have health care, or are able to vote, or are able to travel from point A to point B. To me, independence is meaningless if you don't also have the opportunity, the means literally, to exercise your independence. So to me, that's where freedom comes in. And in a capitalist society, which is what we have, the problem is everything costs money. It costs money even to exercise your most basic freedoms. It costs money even to access the free market of ideas because you have to buy internet access. You need a phone or a laptop, computer, some other thing. There's all these things that cost money. And if, for example, if you're a homeless person, if you are a poor person, if you are destitute, or if you simply just don't have the income, then there's a lot of freedoms which you cannot exercise. For example, the freedom to take a vacation, the freedom to travel, the freedom to do this, that, and a number of other things. You do not have access to these freedoms. I think there are certain fundamental freedoms.
You have access.
Not without money, you don't.
But you have access.
Not without money. And
but you have access.
Argue,
but you have access to money. Yes.
Well,
you cannot say you don't have access to money. You cannot.
Not everyone has the same access to money.
But you have access to money. And yes, everyone does have access to money.
No, not everyone has access to enough money. And so the problem is there's a lot of people who are unable to exercise their freedoms, such as the freedom to obtain medical care.
They are able to exercise their freedoms.
To get your prescriptions
I'm not
because
going to let you use that language.
The money.
No, I'm not going to let you use that language. You have the freedom to exercise that. You can exercise that freedom. It is not being restricted from you. You can choose another word, but what you're saying is factually wrong.
At the end of the day, if you go to the pharmacy and you need your insulin, and the price in insulin is jacked up so high that you cannot afford it, you do not get your insulin. You're being denied a freedom, which I believe should be
you're being denied a
fundamental.
product.
Okay,
if
but
you can't
I believe
afford
that
a
health
product.
care, you should have the freedom to exercise a right to health care, and I don't believe it should be tied to money. There are certain things which should be tied to money, and I get that. Not everything should be available to everybody in equal measure because there should be some degree of merit. There should be some degree of I'm going to work to have the bigger house, the longer vacation, the nice things. I understand that, but there are certain fundamental things that really should not cost you as an individual, and that we as a society should make that available to you either on a merit basis or simply it's 100% available to you, such as health care. Now, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Everybody is paying into this system because that's what it means to be in a society. We pay taxes, but then these things are available to all people who want them, such as transportation.
But again, once you give that power, the power of your health, and you give that to a governing authority, they now get to say how you must treat yourself. They now have a say in how you treat your own body. They now have a say because they're paying for it. They now have a say. Mm-hmm. And
which is no different than the private insurance industry, which
doesn't matter, but I can choose.
How you're treated and what
but
care
I
you
can
obtain.
choose.
I mean, have you not had
I can choose. I can
go
somewhere else.
I mean, have you ever been in that situation where you need medical care, but you have to call your insurer first to get authorization to go to the emergency room or to go get some kind of treatment? Or
no.
Yes, that there are people with insurance plans that are like that, especially the HMOs.
Not the emergency room. Not the emergency room.
I'm going
to call you on that. No, you can
have to call.
No, you can show up to an emergency room. You can
have to call.
You
like
can show up to any emergency.
Otherwise, they have the right to deny those
but
charges.
You have the right to go to any emergency room.
Yes.
And be treated.
Yes, but it's going to cost
right.
you a fortune.
In the United States, anybody
and
can go to any emergency room and be treated.
When you're dealing with bankruptcy, that's not freedom. The fact that you can do something, but it's a choice between bankruptcy and nothing, that is not freedom. You are not free to choose if your only choice is bankruptcy or prolonged illness or suffering. That is not freedom.
It's independence.
It is independence.
Yes.
But it is absolutely not
justice.
Freedom.
And that's
I
justice. Independence is
for
justice.
People. No.
Fairness is not justice. Fairness is not justice.
Equity is justice.
No. Equal opportunity is justice. Equal opportunity is
justice. But the problem is we don't live in a world with equal opportunity.
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
And we certainly don't live in a nation with that.
We do not live in a world of equality, but we definitely live in a world of equal opportunity. That's a fact.
No.
That is an absolute fact.
No.
You have equal opportunity.
Only on paper.
Then it's a fact. You have equal opportunity.
It's not a fact if it isn't real. If a person cannot truly, genuinely exercise it, then it isn't real. We can write anything we want on paper that's meaningless until people have the ability to actually exercise that privilege or that right or whatever it may be. So that's my entire contention here, that we as a society have an obligation to ensure that people are able to obtain things like healthcare, education, transportation. I'm not saying we're going to give everybody a beachfront mansion, beachfront property, but I do want basic things provided for people And I want them to have the ability to exercise access to those things without having to choose between suffering or bankruptcy or illiteracy and, a lifetime of student loan debt or whatever it may be.
And that choice is made in life. That choice is made in the choices you make in life.
Mm-hmm.
When you make right choices, you can afford to do those things.
But we don't all start as blank slates. Our lives are not tabula rasa. We are born into this world with a set of preconditions imposed upon us by our society, by the neighborhood into which we are born.
Then overcome. That's what makes
but
you a better person.
But if it were that easy, everybody would be overcoming.
Person.
But the fact that we have a lot of people who are stuck in, systemic poverty simply because of the place where they are born suggests to us that there is something systemic going on. And that's what we have to solve for. When we solve for the systematic problems, then we can have freedom and independence all day. But we have to solve for the systemic issues. Otherwise, it's all meaningless. You can have independence all day. We have independence now on paper. Mm-hmm. We have freedom on paper, but it's meaningless if you can't exercise it.
You have the power to exercise it. You
really?
Individually have the power. Every individual has the power and the opportunity to exercise
So
their
why are
independence
people dying because they're rationing their medications? Why are people going without health care? Why are people going without education? Why are people not taking vacations and trips or visiting family and relatives when they would like to do so?
Well, I mean, why doesn't everybody have a Ferrari when they'd like to do so? Not everything is owed to you. Not everything is owed to you. Go earn it. Not everything is owed to you. You're not owed a vacation. Go earn it.
Do you agree with human rights? Should humans have rights?
Oh, so vacations are human rights? No.
You could make an argument that yes, you should not be worked to death.
No. Because again, it's saying you have a human.
What are rights besides social constructs?
Right. Again, rights are what the proper rights are. Negative rights. To say you are owed a vacation, that's a positive right. That is not that takes away independence. That puts the responsibility on someone else to provide it for you. It is your responsibility as a human being to make yourself better. It's not somebody else's responsibility to make you better. It's your responsibility. It's your choice. And this even comes down to everything, even in the Bible. The basic belief is you choose heaven or hell. You choose God or not. It is your choice, and there are consequences to that choice. And how you live your life and what happens to you afterwards and what happens in the afterlife are consequences of those choices. Make the right choice, but it's about your choice. It's about every human being making their choice and taking the responsibility for that choice. You cannot shirk your responsibility onto someone else or onto some other government to say, you provide for me. As an adult, you provide for yourself. You take care of yourself. You take responsibility for yourself. And when and if you create a life, you are now responsible for that life until that life is an adult. Because you took the steps to create that life. You are the responsible party. Once that life moves out and becomes an adult, they are now independent from you. They are not one of your dependents, and now they are making their own choices in their own life. Mm-hmm. And the actions that you take set that person up, set that human being up for success or failure. So the right choices, you make right choices, that descendant of you then has a better chance. And then they make right choices, you teach them how to make, then they have a better chance. And then a couple of generations down the road, you have these people who are privileged, who everybody hates because they have so much money and they have so much wealth that they inherited from everybody. Those all came back from somebody's...
because they used their privilege to stifle competition.
Again, what privilege my son has going to college right now was earned by my father and his parents who were immigrants into this country. They earned that privilege. So don't you dare ever shun the privilege of my kids. That was earned by multiple generations of my family. When you shun privilege, unknown privilege, you just look at that person. Well, they just have white privilege. Oh, they just have privilege, and they built all their success on it. Somebody earned that privilege. You don't know their story. You don't know where they came from. How dare you judge their privilege when you don't know their story? You don't know how it was earned. You just sit back in your comfortable little chair in your own privilege and just say, well, look at their privilege. Look at that. That's awful. That's horrible. You don't know.
We often do know how, especially the 1%.
But the 1%, okay, it's 3,000 people in all the world, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know how they got it.
Control more than 85% of the planet's wealth.
Yeah, so, but the other 300 million people just in the United States alone, or however many percentage you want to to get down to, there are millions of people who are living on the privilege that somebody earned, and you shun them every time you say that.
We all stand on the shoulders of giants, right? But
Yes.
let me ask you this. Do you believe that children should have a right in this country to primary education? Free primary education?
Nah, I don't know that that's a positive right that should be provided.
Wow.
I think
Wow. Because that
I mean, that's where we are.
that
That's
the
where we
federal
are right
government
now.
And the states would stop providing education theoretically. Certainly the federal government would
But
be
somebody else would.
out. Okay, but then it would probably then be attached to money, and you would have a society where a small percentage can afford primary education for their children, and the rest would be massively illiterate.
And then that's where charity comes in.
And you really think there's enough charity in the world? We don't have enough charity
With
to
enough-
solve for
with enough-
homelessness right now.
With enough good people. Yes, with enough
we
good
have
people.
children
people
going to
get,
bed hungry tonight in
because
this
there's not
country.
enough good people. And the reason there aren't enough good people is because people are rewarded for making bad decisions.
Thank you, capitalism.
People are rewarded for making bad decisions. And so they don't know how to make good decisions. They don't learn to make good decisions. They don't become better people. They don't take responsibility upon themselves, and they keep making bad decisions. That's why we have this problem. We don't have enough good people because we allow people to remain bad. We reward people for bad decisions, and they don't learn from their mistakes. They don't learn from their bad decisions.
So you're judging right now.
That's fine.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, learn from your mistakes. Just as I make mistakes. I'm not saying I don't make mistakes.
So,
I know that I know that the life I am living right now does not come near the potential that I have. But my own choices have me where I'm at, and I understand that, and I accept that. I don't blame anybody else for me not living up to whatever potential that I have in me. I know that there's more potential, and I know the problems that I have in my life and the bad decisions that I've made that make me. I'm not complaining about my life. This is where I'm at, but I'm saying I know that there is potential for more, but there's nobody holding me back. I'm holding myself back. There are bad decisions that I make that keep me from reaching my potential, and I know that. But I know that's my fault. I know that's my problem.
But why? I mean, you want people to rely on charity, but yet in the status quo, there's absolutely not enough charity.
There was before. We're losing it.
When before?
When every hospital was made and founded by Christian organizations and churches.
That didn't mean everybody had access
every
to
college,
healthcare. No.
every major college you've ever heard of was started as a Christian church
and
secondary
those colleges
education.
weren't for everybody. You know, any time before now, I mean, I think at this point in history, we have the highest rate of literacy and public education ever in American history.
Where did churches used to be? Where did schools used to be in the community? Where did they go to school? What building did they go to?
Well, yeah, oftentimes a church building, right? Okay.
That's the charity of the church coming in for it.
Even back then, you had illiterates, you had people who are hungry, people who are starving, you had people who had access and others who had not, especially on the basis of the color of your skin or your sex.
You had people who had independence.
That's not independence.
Yes, it is.
If you're held back because of your race, what independence do you have? If you're held back because you're a woman versus a man, that's why
the laws should. That's why I agree in laws for equal opportunity. That you should not legally be held back because of your sex or your gender.
So
Sorry,
what
sex, gender,
creates,
or race?
Objectively, what creates, and I'm going to ask you folks who are watching, what do you feel would create a better society? Either a society where education for primary age children is not a right, where it's not provided by the state, and instead you have to pay for it or rely on charity. Or would the society be better if the government said, you know what, it's in the public interest for all school-age children to have mandatory education. We're going to require it. Everyone will pay a little bit in taxes, but your kids will have a free education, and you won't have to rely on charity. Now, which world would you rather raise your kids in?
How about the one that has better education? Because government-provided public education is not the best.
But it's sufficient. It's absolutely,
Is it?
I think so. Yeah, they learn their basics. They learn how to read, write, abstract, multiply, divide.
What are they learning in school that they cannot learn from at home from a parent? Seriously,
How
how much
if
math?
the parents
how much
are
math?
illiterate
How much?
under your system, if the parents are
No.
illiterate, or if the parents have to work, 80 hours a week like they used to back in the day, 60, 80 hours a week. If they have to work a 6-day work week instead of a 40-hour work week, which unions, by the way, got that was part of the progressive movement. If we really went back to the Gilded Age, I think we know what the answer is, and it's a big fat zero, because that's what we saw back in that time. When education was provided by the church, by charity, we had a massive underclass of illiterate workers, and especially children, people who ran the streets. If they didn't have jobs, we had game
I'm sorry,
problems,
you're saying the
had all
underclass was
kinds.
bigger back then? The
It was
middle class?
massive.
The middle class?
There was no middle class in the United States, at least not a substantial
You're saying there is
one.
no one right now. You've made that argument
What?
that there's no middle class.
The middle
right now.
class is shrinking now, but the middle class took off. It was created essentially in the post-World War II boom, when we had strong labor unions, and when corporations and rich people
When
were
America
taxed
just
in the
won a
90th
war.
percentile.
When America just won a war.
Yes,
that's,
we did all that.
That's the main key to that.
Well, no, because that age of prosperity lasted for 2 or 3 decades, up until at least the 80s.
Up until the next war. That didn't get won.
Well, even through Vietnam, America was relatively prosperous because, again, we had strong labor unions, we had strong social programs, and social
Josh,
programs
that's
grew.
fine. I know people who have homeschooled children who ace the test and do better than anybody else in public school. So I mean,
No, Michael, I've not ever been in a union, but I think it would be fantastic. I would like to be
my dad was in a
unionized.
union his whole life. He was a school teacher
Good.
for a high school district.
Yeah. So I've definitely seen firsthand in my own family the benefits of unionization, but I have not personally been in a union. So I think a better society is created. There are certain issues where the government has to say, you know what, we can't rely on charity. We are going to come down and say, this is what we as a society want. We want children who are educated instead of ignorant. Therefore, we are going to provide free public education. We're going to collect the taxes to do that. And it's part of the government has the power to do that under the Constitution.
And the government has the power to teach your kids what it wants them to learn.
Okay, but only for 6-8 hours a day. And then you as the parents still have an opportunity to parent your children. And I think remember, school boards are also
like
school
that kid who was
are
trained
made up of,
like that kid who was trained by his parents that there are only 2 genders, and he got expelled from school for telling that to a teacher.
Well, I don't know anything about that, but that sounds, I don't
Fascist, maybe?
Maybe. Okay. But I don't want to get into that necessarily. But what I am saying is, by and large, I think there are certainly improvements that can be made to education. I am not a fan, especially of our secondary educational system. I think it's wholly inadequate. But it is better than nothing, and it is better than relying on charity. And so, to me, freedom means having the ability to get an education or to obtain health care or to obtain transportation. And in a capitalist society, unless you have money, these things are not accessible to you. So you can have independence all day, but unless somehow you can also scrape together enough money or hustle enough to get the money, and I get that, you're a fan of the hustle, and I kind of am too, but at the end of the day, I just think certain things should be provided for all people because it's what it means to live in a society. And in order for people to be free in a society, certain things either have to be low cost, no cost, or,
Not no
free.
cost. It's never no
Yeah,
cost.
yeah,
It's
free.
never free.
Well, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right?
That's paid for by somebody.
TINSTOFL is the acronym.
It's not no cost. It's provided by those who have made good decisions. They get the choice. They get the privilege of being able to pay.
A lot of people.
They get the privilege of being able to
would
pay for
opt
people
out.
who made bad decisions.
There are people who would opt out. That's why the government has to compel taxation. Taxation is compulsory because if it were optional, there would be a lot of people who would simply opt out, and they wouldn't pay taxes, and they wouldn't necessarily also send their kids to school.
But the people who benefit the most don't pay into it at all.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not. You got to pay for it.
Because
Pay
I
your
benefit.
way.
When your kids are educated, I benefit. When everybody's kids in the neighborhood are going to school during the day instead of half the kids roaming the streets because education is no longer free, I benefit. I don't have to worry about those kids getting into trouble in my neighborhood. So I think we all benefit from a smarter, more informed, literate, capable population. And the workers produce more value. I think it's all around a net benefit. The same thing with healthcare. When everybody has the care they need instead of half of the people being sick because they can't afford it, I think we're all healthier as a society. And I think the costs are lower. You know, so to
The,
me,
the cost will be lower when the pockets are smaller.
what do you mean?
When the doctor can only charge you, Marshall,
Mm-hmm.
they can only get so much out of you, and the price will naturally drop.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, the whole thing's
But
a racket because the government's financing it.
That's
and
why
because
it's
the government
expensive, because insurance companies are financing it, and because there's deep pockets, the
but
astronomical
that's corruption at work.
Right. So
And we don't have a free
you're
market
only
in
getting
healthcare.
and you're only getting more corruption by handing it over to the government.
But
you're
I
only
really-
getting more corruption. You're increasing.
No, I disagree. I think every other nation on the
Bigger
planet
pockets,
which has
absolutely more
socialized healthcare has lower cost healthcare than what we have here in the status quo. So we've got two options when it comes to healthcare. One is absolute free market. Absolute free market would solve the problem to some degree. Or we go socialized healthcare where we model off the Canadian or British or some other system or a hybrid. I don't see why
Where people come
we
to
can't
America,
create our own.
where people come to America to get care.
And people go to Mexico to get care, and they go to Canada, and they go overseas to get care. It's called medical tourism, and it's a phenomenon all around the world. But
So
the
it
bottom
doesn't
line
actually
is, in
work.
America, we pay more for our health care than in any other country on the planet, and we have lower rates of positive outcomes. We have shorter life expectancies. So I think either way is probably going to be some improvement, but I really think we need to do what the rest of the industrialized, civilized world has done and have universal health care for all people.
And give up your freedom of how
That's
you
not
live.
giving. You're
Yes.
not free if you're sick. You can't. What freedom can you exercise if you're laid up in bed or if you're dying? There's no freedom for you. Your independence is meaningless if you can't exercise it.
Yeah, but that's what makes it a principle. Again, it comes
But
down.
what
it comes
is the
down
value of a
to
principle?
the value of a principle is honor and virtue. That's the value of a
What
principle.
do those even mean if you can't get out of a bed, earn a living, and enjoy life?
Then what does anything even mean if you're willing to sell your soul for anything?
Because that's not
'Cause then
selling your
that's
soul.
meaningless.
That's participating in the world. The problem is, under the libertarian idea, you end up with a world where people really can't participate. We say they can participate, but the reality is a lot of doors are slammed in their face because they're the wrong race, they're the wrong gender, the wrong sex, the wrong orientation, the wrong whatever. They're poor, they're born in the wrong neighborhood or what have you.
And you're going to keep
And all those avenues are closed.
They're not.
But they
Get
are.
over it.
They are in the
Get
status
over
quo.
it.
They've been closed to people throughout all human history.
And there are so many examples and so many stories of people who have made it past that. Do what they do. Do what they did.
I think, yes, we do need to do what
Do
they did,
what they
which is
did.
we have a progressive movement in the United States.
No,
which is
no.
Given
You-
women
you-
the right to vote, given
That's not what I'm talking
African
about.
Americans the right to participate.
Again, that's not what I'm talking about. Those laws already exist. They already exist, and you're still making excuses for people who are you're still
because
making
it takes
excuses.
time for them to catch up.
There-
It takes generations.
It
How
has
many
been
generations did it take for your kids to get
and
to
it has
college?
been generations. It has been
Yes, it has.
generations.
3 generations for your family to come here as immigrants.
Right, and it
for
has
your
been
kids to go
generations
to
that these
college.
laws have existed.
Okay.
Those laws have existed for generations, and you're still making
And
excuses
it might take
for bad
3
decisions.
more when you're coming out of slavery or when you're coming out of literally 2,000 years of sexual oppression. It may take more than 3 generations.
No, it does not have to.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does not have to. We
And
could
that's
have a
your
more
choice.
progressive
And that's
society
your
now
choice.
and solve this problem right
you
now.
can choose to make your life and your family better, just as thousands and millions of people already have.
I'm not interested in making my life and my family's life better. I'm interested in making the whole society better. If everybody can't come with me, I'm not interested.
And that's the difference between freedom and independence. Freedom is about let's get all of mankind and let them achieve the level we choose for them. Or independence is let's free the individuals to attain their success that they can. Give them the freedom and the independence to, instead of saying, this is how far we will allow you to be free. This is how far we will allow you to go. We're going to say, this is the freedom you get to have. That's still like a child. I can do that with my child. I can do that with my daughter who is 8 years old. I can say, you can have this freedom. You can stay up this late, Serena. You can say, but then you have to go to sleep. That's me as a parent telling my dependent what you're allowed to do. Instead of my older son, my adult son, that when he goes off to college, I don't get to tell him, sorry, I don't get to call him and say, hey, are you in bed? No, he's independent. He's an adult. He is now dependent for himself. I don't want to live in a society where the government is the parent saying, here, child, Here's
But
what
you
I will
do.
allow you to do.
But you do right now.
And I don't want that. It's going that wrong way. I want the independence, and I will always fight for the independence, not for the parent. You're happy with Big Brother. You're happy with the government spying on you. You're happy with the government seeing everything you do. You're happy. You're happy.
That's a straw man argument.
No.
You're imputing beliefs and ideas.
Right, but you're giving them the power to be the parent. As a parent, I'm
not saying there's not limits on it, Scott, but everybody is going to be comfortable just, at a different temperature, if you will, or at a different level.
And I want it to
control.
go back this way.
And I
want
want
it to go back this way.
A little bit more this way if the net benefit outweighs.
Because the farther you go this way, the less they can control you. The farther you go that way, the more everybody gets used to being controlled. And eventually you get to where your direction leads towards the government spying on you and the government controlling
slippery slope fallacy.
Right, but that's the direction you're going. I'm going to work against that direction.
But
I'm going to go against that direction
for a reason. We were once down that road, and we came this way for a reason.
We came that way because we were duped.
Inequality and injustice.
No, because we were duped. Because we had this discussion. If you want to be a dictator, what is the best road to dictatorship?
You tell me. What's the best road?
Socialism. Promising everything for everyone. Every dictator we have seen has started with because we don't have freedom now. If you want to go back and look at this is when we're talking about whether or not Hitler was a socialist. And ultimately, the conclusion was it doesn't matter if he was a socialist or not. He knew that socialism was the best and quickest and most efficient way to become a dictator. You are guiding us toward dictatorship. Your direction moves us that direction.
So
I want to
stay. Do you want to go back towards feudalism because that's what's down that road? And is feudalism substantially different than dictatorship then?
I want to go back to individual freedom.
I mean,
of the United States, the founding of the United States, the founding of the United States of individual freedom, not moving towards socialism, but the founding of the United States of individual freedom,
despite
not
the fact
feudalism,
that's a myth.
not feudalism, but the intent of the founding of the founders of the United States to protect individual freedom, independence, and the ability for that to be changed. And given out.
Yeah, and they didn't want to change that in their lifetime, that's for sure.
No, they did. That's why it was in there.
They absolutely didn't.
They did. The founders did.
They could have freed their slaves. They could have given women the right to vote, and they didn't.
Yeah, because there was a portion of that society that didn't want to do that, and there was a portion that did, and they built into the system so that it could be eradicated.
There's a reason
it was a great
we came
system.
this direction.
Yeah, but that is not the
all right.
No, freeing slaves is not socialism. That is not what happens in the end of socialism. All right, that's what happens when you are there to protect individual rights. When you set up the system to protect individual rights, it will eventually eliminate.
You protect individual rights under socialism.
I know.
Anyway.
I understand that, but I'm saying you're saying that moving towards socialism is what moved us away from slavery. No, saying that the individuals have rights is what moved us away from slavery. Not moving towards socialism.
Change in our
moving
society,
towards socialism gives us dictators.
Every progressive change in our society has been decried as socialism. The 40-hour work week, giving women the right to vote, giving equal rights to people, the war on poverty, if you will. All of these things have been decried
equal
as
rights
socialism.
And women. Nope.
Social security, socialism. Well, yeah, it is socialism. But we're not a dictatorship, at least not under one strongman, although it seems we're moving that way.
We are moving that way. We are moving that way towards socialism because that's the easiest and most efficient way to become a dictator is to move towards socialism.
So who's the dictator, Trump?
No, they're not here yet. It's whoever is trying.
They're not here yet, guys.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's the people. It's the it's the far left trying to take over. It's the far left trying to be that.
So giving women the right to vote is the far left taking over.
No, that's individual freedom. That's fighting for individual freedom.
Okay.
That's fighting for individual freedom.
So now you're just cherry picking. This is okay, but that's not. That's socialism.
No, but that's not definition of socialism.
Opponents to those things call those things socialism.
What's that? No, not voting rights is not socialism.
Well, that's what they called it back in the day.
Well, they're wrong. I don't really care. That's fine. Anybody can call anything they want. You can call anything right now whatever you want. The idea is if we are here to protect individual freedom and individual rights, individual independence, then you will always get to the point to where you're going to free slavery and give equal rights, which is what we've gotten. We have equal rights, not because we moved to socialism. We have equal rights because the Constitution was set up to protect equal rights.
Well, I think we're out of time.
We are out of time. This is one of the longer ones that we've gone. Yeah. And we thought, how could we talk about what's the difference between independence and freedom? Hey,
I've got a long drive. So.
You got a long drive. That's really what it is. You got to drive back, and you want to get. We've gone 5 minutes over. Thank you guys for joining us. There's a lot of comments on there. We were talking so much that we weren't able to address all the comments. Michael, Josh, Jeffrey, Carrie. Thank you guys for participating. Everybody else who's there. Did I miss anyone? I think I saw Scott on there for a little bit. Thank you guys for participating, keeping the conversation going. You know what? Share this with your friends. We want more people participating, and we want to hear what you have to say.
Share this out. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Share it out. We're gonna be talking tomorrow. Not sure about what. We'll have a topic for tomorrow, and then next week we'll try to get together again, but it'll definitely be in a different location. Don't know how exactly it's gonna look, but we're
not settled, but we will know.
But soon. We will have the independence to choose.
The freedom to choose.
All right. Until next time.
Thank you.
I'm Scott.
I'm Marshall.
All right. This has been a valid answer. Oh, hold on. Got to go ending. And there we go. Out.